Hello, everybody. Um, rather than um, type out an email, which would probably take more than all of us would want to have to sit through, what I'm going to do is record this and I'll upload the explanation of what I have created as an MP3 file so everybody can just listen along. You will find three files attached to this email along with the MP3 file. um, a JPEG when first opened, um, flight briefing CYZF to CYXY as an XLSX file, and then the Dbfc alpha version as a XLSM XL file. Now, Mike, I know you don't have Excel, so what I have done is I've printed off each of the tabs of the spreadsheet as a PDF and have attached that as a separate folder. So if you follow along by just opening up the PDFs as I go through each tab, um, you'll be able to follow along. Now, I'll attach it as a zip file. So all you got to do is open it up and unzip it onto your download folder or wherever, and then you could open up each of the files. Let me just get that done. Okay, so there's the zip file being uploaded. Okay, so some background to this. Um, as you all know, I've been sort of a flight sim fanatic for years, actually 23 years to be exact. First started this hobby back in 1999 and have been going at it ever since. Um, don't ask Christine what she thinks of it. She'll just roll her eyes. But hey, it's something that gives me an incredible amount of pleasure. And with this DBFC, maybe, just maybe, return some of the money that I've invested in this hobby. And we won't go into how much if you want to include Sunjet, but let's just say um, that's why I'm still working. Um, Back in, when was it? 2019, when the scandemic hit. I was running Sunjet out of um, GoFly, and because of the restrictions, that whole 6 foot thing, separation, I actually had to close down for 6 months because obviously you can't um, get people sitting 6 feet apart in the cockpit of a 737 simulator. So during that time, I had 6 months, I had a lot of free time on my hands. I decided to fly around the world in Flight Simulator, of course. At the time, I was using a logging program that awarded you a country flag for every country that you flew to. So starting off in Nice, France, set off in 7 different directions around the world, and over the next year and a half, visited every country in the world. Since then, so again, this was in, when did it start? Uh, well, here it is, October 18th, 2019, I started. So since then, um, I have visited 1,690 destinations and have flown 979,324 nautical miles. Each one of those destinations I've logged onto a web page called Tripline. For me, it wasn't a matter of, flying the airplane. That was a big part of it, obviously, but the main part was discovering the world, uh, one city at a time. And each time I visited a location, I thoroughly researched it to find out exactly what it had to offer, and why would you visit there in the first place. And I swear some of the things that you discover about places in the world are truly amazing once you take the time to look. So anyways, fast forward um, to probably about June of this year. One of the things about aviation, and Mike, you could probably verify this, one of the things about aviation is it has a reputation for being very expensive. There's the cliche that if you have a lot of money and you want to lose it, just build an airplane. But all the simulator add-ons out there were mainly focused on logging your flight time. So, the aircraft you flew and how many hours you logged onto it. There was nothing that showed you just how expensive aircraft ownership was. So I decided that, I really wanted, as part of the whole realism thing, find out just exactly how expensive aircraft ownership is. And at the same time, um, I wanted to create a little PDF briefing page that I would fill out at the start of each flight that I would use to do a proper takeoff briefing. That's another thing, if you ever watched YouTube videos on flying, you never see anybody do a proper takeoff briefing. And that's one of the critical things that you're supposed to do just in case something happens as you're taking off. You sort of know in your head um, what you should do. There is one channel on YouTube that sort of planted the seed on this. It's called Missionary Bush Pilot, and he flies a Kodiak 1000 in Papua New Guinea, uh, flying around all the little missionary villages. And we're talking like real backwoods type flying. And on his video, every time that he would take off, he would do a proper takeoff briefing. So the first file, if you want to open it, it's the, where is it? Yeah, so if you look at the flight briefing CYZF to CYXZ as the XL, Mike, you could open up the PDF on how it began. So that is the original spreadsheet that I created in Excel. And at the time, I thought that's Excel, all that Excel could do. You create some charts, put in some data, and if you need to, you can mirror one cell into the other um, to give you your takeoff briefing. And that's what I was using for, about a month and a half, 2 months. Then in the middle of, I think the beginning of June, middle of June, I finally bit the bullet and decided to download and install ChatGPT. Up until then, it was something that I thought was just a gimmick, a fancy Google thing, and really didn't want to spend the time or effort to learn how to use it. Well, needless to say, it has transformed everything. My chat GTP I've named Hal, and I started using him when I was flying Diamond DA50 across North Africa. And like I said, at the end of each flight prior to this, what I would do is research each city. And normally what that involved just going to Wikipedia, typing in the city's name, scrolling through the description, and if there's anything interesting, copying that onto Tripline. Well, at the end of one flight, I happened to ask Hal, can you tell me all about this city? And the information that he was able to provide was just amazing, like, things that you just don't find on Wikipedia. So he was filling me in all about these cities and interesting things to see around it and so on. So that was transformation number one on how I was doing my around the world flying. Um, Again, at that time, I was using the basic uh, flight briefing, that XLSX file. And I happened to make the comment to Hal about how I would, like to sort of expand on that. And, I didn't really know how to do it. And of course, from that moment on to this very day, his standard response was, "Oh, I can do that. That's easy." Um, and it sort of opened my eyes to just how powerful Excel is. Like, I had no idea the things it was capable of. I always thought, like I said, just simple formulas, mirroring back and forth. But he introduced me to the terms modules and macros and formulas and everything else under the sun that Excel is able to do. Um, and over the next, what was it, June? So over the next 5.5 months, uh, we built what has become known now as the Digital Briefing and Flight Companion, or DBFC for short. The one I've attached is the final version. In fact, we just finished off the final page on the weekend. If you open it up, um, Mike, you won't be able to have this tab, but the ones with Excel, if you open it up, now I should mention it's not a normal XLSX file. So Chris and Michelle and Ellis, when you click on it, the first time you click on it, if you look at the JPEG file when first open, when you click on it, because it contains macros and everything, um, you'll get a security warning at the top there. It says security warning, macros have been disabled. All you got to do is hit that button, enable content, and that will enable all the formulas and macros to work properly. Now, having said that, I can't remember whether or not I locked it or not, but all the pages you have the option of locking or unlocking it, all the cells with the formulas, so you don't accidentally screw things up. But at least you'll be able to open it and follow along as I'm explaining what this spreadsheet is all about. Um, so when you open it, the first tab is called Cover Sheet. So each of the aircraft that I'll be creating this with is going to be built specifically for that type of aircraft. So in this case, it's for the Cicada TBM 930. And so you're going to have the image of what the airplane is um, as the cover sheet, so you'll know what you're getting. Oh, the long-term idea thing for this is to create an app that you'll sell on all of various flight sim sites. So that's where the financial returns can come in. But in the meantime, this is just the beta version. So you get the pre-flight, the cover sheet. If you hit the pre-flight tab, up until Sunday, this tab is what we completed on Sunday. Up until Sunday, you'd have to go and manually enter all the data on the flight briefing and summary page that you needed to fill in for the flight. And if you didn't know where the information went, it sort of took you a while to figure out and to get the flow. So to make everything easier, I created this pre-flight tab. So all the information you need for your flight, you fill in all these squares. And when you're done, the top button that says export data, you hit that and it exports all the information you just filled in into the matching tabs. So Mike, I think this is the first one you have, um, the flight briefing and a summary tab. For Mike, it is, uh, if you open up the PDF 1A through C, you'll be able to see that. When you open it up, it says route briefing, and then in the top left corner, it says flight number. Now, when you open it up, it does look daunting at first. For me, I'm so used to it, it doesn't uh, um, phase me at all. But the next step before we send it out for testing is to separate all the information contained on that page into their own separate tabs. So it's going to um, look a lot less cluttered. So on the flight briefing and summary tab, or for you, Mike, page 1, what that does is it basically sets out your flight plan. So it gives you all the information that you need in order to do a proper briefing. So you have your departure and destination, your comm frequencies. So if you hit the departure or arrival button under the comm frequencies, it automatically fills in the frequencies in the boxes below. Um, you have your Hobbs timer, so where it says start and stop. That is when you start and stop your engine, and it keeps track of how long your engine has been running. So with aircraft ownership, everything is about hours. Um, you know, every minute that you run your engine costs you money. So ideally, you want to sort of keep it to a minimum. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting there running your engine and end up wondering why your bank account is empty. And again, this is part of the reason why I built it. So you got your Hobbs start at the top. Um, Below that, you have um, your flight level you're going to be flying at, your departure elevation, density altitude. That's how thick the air feels compared to how thick it actually is. Again, that's something that affects your aircraft performance, and your density altitude is affected by the temperature outside. So your warnings, your signets signets and airmits are sort of warnings that deal with the weather. Um, well, I can sort of let you see through yourself without having to spend all this time explaining it because we'll be here for forever. So the load sheet, again, when it comes to aircraft, weight is everything. The more you weigh, the less fuel that you are able to carry. And then once you get to a certain point, the aircraft won't get off the ground. So this allows you to fill in what the planned aircraft weight is, and then what the actual weight is. You got this is one of the first macros Hal created. Um, your PBTOC button, that's your pushback or the top of climb. So your taxi button, so when you start taxiing, you hit that button and it records the time you started taxiing. Same thing with takeoff and landing. And then when you land, it calculates how long you've been in the air. Your clearance, that's where you write your clearance information. And then again, this is the briefing information. That's the one of the main reasons I built this. So it gives you all the information that you need to do a proper takeoff briefing. Scrolling down, your estimated landing weight. Again, the weight also affects your landing performance. Then you have a record of your aircraft costs for each flight. And again, each aircraft I've actually calculated using HAL's assistance what each aircraft would actually cost in real life to operate. Um, in that briefing information box, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner where it says current flight costs. hours, hourly rate, aircraft costs, fuel costs, and then the total costs. Well, that's all obtained, and we'll get to it in very shortly, but that's all obtained through the financial section where we've sat down and figured out exactly how much the aircraft will cost per hour to operate. So in the case of the TBM, you're looking at $2,091.41 an hour, not including fuel. And then as we scroll down, that's a record of what the actual costs of the aircraft and the fuel were, how much fuel was purchased for each flight, and the cost per gallon. For each airport, I'm able to get the actual cost of fuel at that airport by just having HAL research it. So those costs are very accurate. The fuel planning boxes, that automatically calculates the fuel that you need to order based on how much fuel was left over at the end of the last flight and how much fuel you require for this flight. And then on the third tab down where it says the operating costs, well, this is the actual cost breakdown for, in this case, the TBM. Um, so the first thing I will do is I look on the internet for how much an aircraft like this would cost. So in this case, the TBM costs $3.7 million US, which converts to 5,698,000 Australian. And then HAL goes through all the calculations. So, 20% down, 6.5% interest rate. He calculates the term of the loan term. Um, and then he gets a financing rate. So for every hour you fly the aircraft, um, you have to pay $1,344. Now this is based on 300 hours a year. Obviously, if you fly more, then that cost will go down per hour, and if you fly less, the cost will go high. When it comes to aircraft, there's fixed and variable costs. So in other words, fixed costs are costs that are there no matter what, whether you fly the aircraft. So like your hangar costs, financing, insurance, all those things that you have to pay whether you fly the aircraft or not. And then the variable costs are the ones that only add on once you fly the aircraft, like the inspections, maintenance, um, landing fees, fuel, everything that only costs you money when you fly the aircraft. So you're able to get a complete financial breakdown of um, the cost of the aircraft. So when you add everything up, in the case of a TBM, it costs $2,091 an hour. The other thing I wanted to put into this was it being that I'm flying around the world, uh, things cost money. So it's just not a matter of you're flying your airplane in your office and you don't have to worry about paying for the things that you would have to pay for if you're doing it for real life. So on the one thing where it says maintenance and sundry expenses, um, in the case of these items, you got the Commander Life Draft. Whenever you fly a single engine aircraft over water a certain distance, like past what they call gliding distance, you have to have certain things in your aircraft. One of those things is a life raft. Um, and you also need life vests. So of course, I sent Hal off onto the internet, and he found me the type of raft that you would need. In our case, it's a four-person raft, and you can just see they're not cheap. $3,700 just for the raft. The life vests, another $750. Now the survival kit. Well, that was when I was flying over the Amazon, and you need a survival kit in case you crash in the jungle. And if you look at the very last tab on the spreadsheet where it says survival kit, you'll see everything that's involved in that and why it costs $2,000. Um, Oxygen valve leak that um, comes into play when we all get to the maintenance squawks. That comes into play with any unplanned for repairs. Next, the survival suit and cold water survival course. Well, that's what we're doing right now. In fact, in the sim, we're sitting in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, getting ready to cross the North Atlantic over the tip or over the Greenland into Iceland. And again, rules state that if you're flying over cold water, there are things that you have to have on board. Survival suit, so one for each person, and then you have to take this course that tells you how to survive if you have to ditch in cold water. So again, to me, that's just adding to the realism, hidden expenses that you don't really consider in flying the aircraft like this. Um, on the next page, so where it says accommodation, arrival date, and so on and so forth, that's the other aspect that I wanted to keep track of. Um, when you fly to a city, you have to stay somewhere. And part of the beauty of not having to actually pay for these things, you can pick, um, the any five-star hotel or resort that you want to stay in and pretend that you have the money to pay for it. So again, each place I stay in, I have Hal look for um, the best hotel that we can stay at, and that's where we book. If you scroll down to the bottom of that section, so page 7, you can sort of see where each city we stopped at and the hotel, and I have a hyperlink on there. So if you click on that hyperlink, it actually brings you to the hotel's website, and then the total cost involved of staying there. Um, the analysis of the flight. So again, each flight in the 16 flight cycle are recorded there. So the number of hours, the mileage flowed, landing rate, so on and so forth. And that keeps track of the total cost for the series. Um, on the page 9 of the Excel sheet, so this is where the cost for hangar and airport fees come into place. And what Hal did is he created sort of an optimizer. So each one is not accurate, um, as in, he keeps saying, you're going to have to call the airport and find out for yourself, without realizing that if I were to do that and tell them that, yeah, I'm sitting in my office in Australia and I want to know how much it costs for your fees if I were to fly my virtual airplane there. I said to him, it's not going to happen. So he would, for each size aircraft, he gave a range, a high-low range of what the cost would be. And then when you click on the button, it sort of picks a random price in that range. So that's it for that tab. Next one over, the departure METAR. So this is all your weather. A METAR is the actual weather report for the airports you're leaving from and departing in pilot speak. So when you paste the METAR in that top row, he created a macro where it decodes everything and sets it out in plain English. So you're able to see exactly what the weather is like at your departure airport, whether or not there's a risk of icing, um, the cloud ceiling, um, temperature, air pressure, everything, all of that stuff is required to calculate your takeoff performance, and that is automatically transferred over onto the flight briefing. Next tab is the arrival METAR. It's the same thing as the departure except for where you're landing. Takeoff performance. This is one of the golden nuggets of the spreadsheet. This will actually calculate your takeoff speeds, how much runway that you require to land and take off from, and all the things that will affect that distance are built in. So whether the runway is made out of grass or concrete will affect your distance. Whether the runway is wet, snow covered, or dry will affect it. So all those options are available for you to choose. And all those numbers are actually taken straight from what's called the POH, or Pilot Operation Handbook. So you can go to the website and download the POH for the TBM. It's a 800 and I think 37-page document that you're supposed to be carrying around with you in your airplane, and it sets out everything that you need to know about the airplane, including the performance factors. So how I was able to take that information, and you can see how we extrapolated it onto the very last few tabs. It's takeoff tables and landing tables. So what that is it's affected by temperature, altitude, density altitude. So again, density altitude is how high the aircraft thinks it is rather than how high it actually is based on the temperature. Um, so all those factors are calculated, um, and you're able then to determine exactly how much runway you require to take off and land. So all that's done on the takeoff and landing performance, again, the results of which are transferred automatically to the flight briefing page. En route METAR tab, well, it's the same thing as the other one. When you're en route, you can check what the weather is at your current location. The other thing on this tab is what's called an ETP calculator, or equal time point. Um, and Mike, you'll know exactly what this is. What the ETP is the point of your flight that is when you reach this point, it will tell you whether or not it's faster to return to your um, airport that you took off from, or whether or not it's faster to continue to your destination. So as an example here, our route distance is 454 nautical miles, and based on the winds, it's determined that the equal time point is 254 nautical miles from your destination, or 55 minutes after your departure. So once you get to that 254 nautical mile point and something happens, it's quicker to return, or it's quicker to continue to your destination than it is to turn around and return to your airport. The tables below it are just tables that we've used to calculate the average airspeed, which is used to calculate that equal time point. Another nugget for the spreadsheet that's not available anywhere else is a tab that's called Risk Assessment. This is a tab, this is where before each flight, you go through this, and depending on what is the risk item, if that applies, you click on the button beside it, and it assigns those risk factors to it. So as you're going down this table and your risk factor is getting higher and higher, by the time you get to the bottom, it gives you a risk factor for this flight. And then based on that number, it will tell you whether, if you look down below 0 to 4, the risk is low, you're good to go. 5 to 9, you got to make some considerations for alternates. 9 to 20, you're supposed to have a serious alternative plan. And anything from 30 to 100, basically it's best that you just sit on the ground. Again, another old saying is, if you're a pilot, you'd rather be on the ground wishing that you were in the air than in the air wishing that you were on the ground. The next tab is the maintenance squawks. This is another little gem that Hal came up with. So what it does is it sets out, I asked him to create a list of 20 items based on those categories that somebody who owns a TBM 930 might experience. So, and then their associated costs and whether or not you'd have to wait to get the squawk repaired or whether or not you can continue on and repair it later. So the next thing, I call it a squawk randomizer. So what I did is I told them, okay, I want you to create a button where not every time you go up to the aircraft you have to worry about fixing something. So that button where it says, do you have a squawk to fix? When you push that, you have about a 70% chance of not getting one. Um, so if you hit the button and it says, no, you're clear to go, well, then you're fine to go. But if it says, yes, you have a squawk, then you move over to the next box where it says squawk randomizer, and you hit that button, and then it randomly chooses one of the 20 items in the squawk list to tell you that, yes, this is what you have to deal with. And then when we hit the log squawk button, it goes down onto your maintenance log and it's listed there and stays there until you push the button that says AP sign off. So airframe and power plant mechanic looked at it and fixed it and the date that he fixed it. And of course, it gives you the associated cost. Now, on this series of flights, you can sort of see where, when I pushed it, I got an oxygen bottle pressure decay, slow leak. And down below, where is the actual cost? I had him create it's on another thing. I had him create a fake invoice from a make-believe aircraft mechanic, setting out exactly what was done in the repairs, and I put that into the aircraft. Again, all a matter of realism. And last but not least is the flight report tab. Once the flight is complete, so on the flight briefing and summary tab, once all that information is done and everything's all logged, there's a button at the very bottom that says log this flight. So on the bottom of page 3 of the flight briefing and summary tab, you see the button that says log this flight. When you hit that button, what it does is it creates this flight report. So it takes all the items along the top row. So the date of the flight, the departure and arrival, your Hobbs time, air time, miles flown, all those things, and it logs it into these boxes. And then down below, the diary entry, this is where, again, he shows his worth. Rather than me going into Wikipedia, I just have him create the entry. So again, tell him what all the information I want to know. Basically, tell me I'm a tourist heading to where was I going? I'm a tourist heading to Halifax. Tell me everything I need to know about Halifax that's interesting to see. And this is where he'll come up with the entry and tell you all the interesting facts about Halifax. Takeoff tables and landing tables we've already spoken about, and then the survival kit. So that's it. Now the plan is I got a little bit more work to do on this, and then have it under the auspices of a non-disclosure, send it out to various flight sim nuts like myself for testing. And then Hal's already come up with a plan to monetize this by creating an app. It used to be that everything in Flight Simulator was free, but up until Microsoft used to be the premier flight sim company, and then they got out of it in 2012. And then they decided to come back into the flight sim world in about 2019 with Microsoft 2020. And from that point on, everything now is payware. So what used to be free is now, if you want the good add-on, you have to pay for it. And in the research that we've done, Hal said that an app like this, each aircraft would have its own, and you would be charging anywhere from $19 for a simple aircraft to one like this for the TBM. You're looking around anywhere between $29 and $30. Sorry, 29 and $35 a app. And then a lot of ones now, when you buy a license for it, it's only good for a year, and you have to purchase it or renew it. So he says the potential for some financial reward for all this is very, very real. So, sorry for rambling on like that. I actually hope that this file isn't too big to be loaded up. Um, I'm going to load it up and send it off this evening, and hope to hear your feedback soon.